Hi boys and girls, I'm going to show you where you can find your Social Studies assignment 4.4 called World Leaders and the Course of the War. So you're going to go to your Social Studies course, you're going to go to your HCS supplemental activities, and we're in Module 4, and we're looking at 4.4 World Leaders and the Course of the War. You click on the lesson. And for this lesson, you've got a few sections. Goes all the way down to section 6. I'm going to pull up the assessment. The assessment's all the way at the bottom, 4.4 assessment. I'm going to open that up so we can look at the assessment while you are working on the lesson. All right, so section 1. It says, who were the world leaders during World War II and what roles did they play? So step 1, you're going to print the World War II Key Figures Organizer, which is linked right here. Step 2, you're going to read about the world leaders from the Key Figures during World War II slide deck. You click on this, it's going to open up a slide deck or a Google slide presentation where you can view information of the key world leaders that were involved in World War II. As you read about each leader, complete the corresponding section on the World War II Key Figures Organizer found on your assessment sheet, which is attached below. And I already opened that up. So as you're looking through this slide deck, and I can even open it up for you so you can see, as you're going through this slide deck, okay, it's going to be about the different leaders that were involved in World War II. You're going to fill out this section of your assessment sheet. So it's the first 3 pages, okay? And each of the leaders are on these 3 pages. You've got Winston Churchill, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and so on, okay? So as you're going through this presentation that's linked in the lesson, you're going to be filling out the different information for each of these leaders, okay? You've got their name and then the important information. What country did they lead? What was their leadership style? And then what was their role in World War II? You're going to fill that out for each leader. What country did they control? Or what country did they lead, I should say. What country did they lead? What type of leadership style did they follow? And then what role did they have in World War II? And that's going to be the same for each of the leaders. The country that they led, their leadership style, and the role that they had in World War II. Okay? So for example, Franklin D. Roosevelt, the country was the United States. The leadership style in the United States, we have a democracy. So you would write democracy here. And the role in World War II, you'd have to read through, obviously, the slide deck, but just a quick little snippet of what I believe he, was started off by wanting to help the other countries that were involved in the war, our allies. But then he did want to get involved in the war after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our lesson. Okay, so that's step 1 and step 2. Step 3, you're going to watch this video, Political Leaders in World War II History, and you're going to add any information to your World War II Key Figures Organizer found on your assessment sheet. So after you watch this video, if there's any other extra information that you can add to this chart, you're going to add it. Okay, so watch the video and then add to your chart. And then step 4, answer question 1 on your assessment sheet. Question 1's at the bottom of the chart. Who did you rank as number 1 who did you rank as the number 1 most important leader during World War II and why? And if you notice on the chart, boys and girls, you've got their rank here. You can rank them 1 being the most important, 10 being the least important. Okay, and then for question 1, I have a fill in the blank because I want to show you how to answer short answer and complete sentences. If you go at the top here, it says answers must be in complete sentences to get full credit. Some examples have been provided with fill in the blanks so that you can see how to answer a short answer question. So number 1 is a fill in the blank. I ranked blank as the most important leader because. So who do you think was the most important leader? And then explain why. Okay, so all of that is section 1. You've got your chart, you're ranking the leaders on the left here. You're filling out the country, the leadership style, and the role in World War II. And then you're answering number 1 by saying, who do you think is the most important leader and why? All right, let's move on to section 2. By the time the United States joined the Allies fighting against the Axis, the Allies were in trouble. The Allies remained determined to win. As a World War II historian, investigate what was known as the European theater, an area of heavy fighting across Europe. And here you can see a map of the European theater. And that just means like the Europe area of where the war was fought. And you can see the key here. The dark purple is the Axis powers pre-World War II. The light purple is the maximum Axis control. So all that light purple and dark purple is what the Axis powers controlled. The white are the Allies. The tan are the neutral color or neutral countries. And then the stars are where there were major battles. So step 1, you're going to closely read the article, The War in Europe, which is attached here. And step 2, you're going to complete the Pick 3 and GIST graphic organizer on your assessment sheet, which is attached below. So let's look at the Pick 3 graphic organizer. So this goes with section 2. Write down 3 key ideas from the article. Remember to include evidence from the text. Then write a short summary of the article. So for your key ideas, these are just going to be 3 main ideas, 3 important details from the text. And then what's the evidence that supports that key idea? Okay, so this part right here, your key ideas should be in your own words. What are 3 important things, 3 main factors? And then what's the evidence that supports each? So key ideas should be your own words. Evidence from the text is from the text. And then in 2 to 3 sentences, you're going to just kind of sum up your key ideas and your evidence. Okay, so that's going to be your summary here. In 2 to 3 sentences, what was the war in Europe all about? Okay, so that's section 2. Let's look at section 3. Now that you have read about the European theater of World War II, watch how military control changed throughout the war in Europe. So you're going to watch this video, World War II in 5 minutes, the European theater. You will see how the fighting spread across Europe in a map in motion. Pay attention to the flags on the map. They represent the countries winning battles throughout the war in Europe. And you can see the different flags for the Axis powers and the different flags for the Allied powers. So in this video, you're going to see a map in motion, like an interactive map. And I want you to pay attention to the flags on the map because you're going to see them representing the Axis powers and the Allied powers. Then step 2, you're going to complete questions numbers 2 through 4 on your assessment sheet. So let's look at 2 through 4. Section 3, number 2, how did the map of Europe change from the beginning of the video to the end? And I gave you an example of a short answer, so you can fill this one out. The map of Europe changed from the beginning of the video to the end because, so explaining how that map changed from the beginning to the end. Number 3, what was something interesting that you noticed? You're going to remember to answer this question in a complete sentence. What was something interesting that you noticed? Something that was interesting that I noticed was fill in the blank. Number 4, did the map help you see how fighting took place throughout Europe? Explain. So this map in the video should show you how fighting took place. So this answer I would say would be yes, the map did help me see how fighting took place throughout Europe because, make sure you explain. All right, section 4. World War II did not only take place throughout Europe, but it was also fought in the Pacific. And so here you can see a Pacific theater map of where the war took place. Okay, so this is on the Pacific coast of Asia. The light purple is the Japanese territory in 1942. The dark purple is the Japanese territory post-World War II. So after World War II, you can see that they lost a lot of territory after the war. The dark red line is the maximum Japanese expansion. And the white are the Allied offenses from 1942 to 1945. So for this, you're going to do step 1. You're going to read the article, The Pacific Front, and then you're going to answer questions 5 through 6 on your assessment sheet. So let's look at 5 through 6. The Americans used a military strategy called island hopping. Write 1 or 2 complete sentences explaining this strategy. So you're going to answer this in complete sentences. The Americans used a military strategy called island hopping. Write 1 or 2 complete sentences explaining the strategy. So you're going to explain what island hopping was in complete sentences. And number 6, was the strategy of island hopping successful? And here I gave you an example of how to complete this in a short answer. Notice that I restate the question in my answer. The strategy of island hopping was successful because, and you're going to fill in the blanks. All right, section 5. Continue to investigate the American strategy of island hopping. View the video World War II Island Hopping 1 time to get the big picture. Then you're going to view, for step 2, you're going to view the video again and answer questions 7 through 8 on your assessment sheet. So 7, you're going to write 1 interesting quote or important fact you learned from the video. Explain what it means in your own words. Did you choose it because it was important or interesting? Okay, so here another fill in the blank for you. 1 interesting, and so here you can fill in, is it a quote or a fact, whichever you choose. I learned from the video was, so you put your quote or your fact here. What this means is blank. You're going to explain what your quote or fact means. And then I chose it because, why did you choose it? Why did you choose that quote? Why did you choose that fact? And then number 8, write a 3 to 4 sentence summary of the World War II island hopping video. Again, 3 to 4 sentences, complete sentences. And section 6, our last section. As a World War II historian, you will now investigate Japanese internment camps from primary and secondary sources. Remember, primary sources come from that time period. Secondary sources are coming from a later time period, written about that time period. So step 1, read the article Japanese Internment. Step 2, watch the video Diary Reveals Reality of Living in a World War II Japanese Internment Camp. And then you're answering questions 9 through 12 on your assessment sheet. Number 9, what was an internment camp? So you're going to say an internment camp was, and then explain in a complete sentence. Number 10, why were Japanese Americans placed in internment camps? I gave you a fill in the blank here. Japanese Americans were placed in internment camps because. Number 11, how did you feel when you heard what it was like living in an internment camp? Make sure you answer that in a complete sentence. And then number 12, what did you learn from this assignment? So overall, all the things that we've covered in this lesson, what is something that you learned? An overall idea. Okay, and then make sure that you submit all 4 of those pages. Okay, there's 4 pages to submit. Make sure you submit all 4 of those. Okay, and that is it. When you're done, you'll go ahead and scroll down here. There'll be a blue plus button where you can submit your work.